The thing about success is the more you have, the danger is you start believing that you know more than everybody. And success is based, as many of you know, on a lot of factors. It's timing, it's support. I was talking to somebody the other day about what is this person's ceiling? It was a young kid in college. And I said, don't worry about your ceiling. Your ceiling can only be realized with help. Nobody reaches a ceiling without help. Brady had Belichick, and then he went to Tampa with those receivers. If he never had Belichick and those good receivers in Tampa, he'd have no Super Bowls. Everybody's ceiling, you need alliances and help. If you show up, you work hard every day, that's really who you are. Don't worry about the ceiling part. And the Patriots, for the only time in the history of the National Football League, maybe the Packers did this way back, but the Patriots had like 2 dynasties. They had like a 20-year run, which included 2 dynasties beginning and end. So it's very human. It's very understandable if you start believing that you just are better than everybody else and smarter than everybody else. So the last 2 years has been very weird in New England since Tom Brady left. Tom is succeeding, and New England is not. They're a 500 team. Belichick now has multiple kids on his staff, his kids. Their drafts have been, to say the least, odd, and they can't score. So a story coming out over the weekend that from legitimate sources, Mike Girardi at the NFL Network, guy's been doing this a long time, that they've looked bad. Mac Jones looks uncomfortable this year. Mike Reese, ESPN reporter, again, excellent reporter, know Mike not well, but know him, is they've had real struggles in camp. And it reminds me, back in 2010, Josh McDaniel was the coordinator of New England. He was this young, brash coordinator, and he got the job with Denver. And listen, sometimes when you're really talented, you get jobs early in your life. Lane Kiffin is one of these coaches, Lane Kiffin, and you're just not ready for it. It's a big job, face of a franchise. And that's okay. But the one thing Josh McDaniels did that was not okay is he drafted Tim Tebow in the first round in 2010, 12 years ago. And it was, I'm smarter than everybody. The sources I've had in this league for a long time and the people I trusted on Tim Tebow, most of the people I trusted didn't even know if he was draftable. Didn't know if he was draftable. That's okay, by the way. Tommy Frazier is one of the best college quarterbacks I've ever seen at Nebraska, didn't get drafted. Charlie Ward was great. Quarterback, Florida State, didn't get drafted. Tebow's much closer to them than he is Peyton Manning, right? Like, my guys were like, I'm not really sure with his delivery. I don't know if he's a draftable quarterback. Maybe I'd take him in the 7th round and just get him on the roster. Denver took him first round. He bombed. He was at one point 4th on the depth chart in Denver. And so, again, McDaniel's from New England. And when you start looking, one of the things we know to be true, and it's sort of odd, right, is that Belichick's coaching tree has a lot of failures. And not just failures, disasters. Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, Charlie Weiss at Notre Dame, like disasters. And with all of them, what's the criticism? Josh McDaniels, arrogance. Charlie Weiss came out, said he had a schematic advantage at Notre Dame, arrogance. Bill O'Brien, who I think is a pretty good coach, took over Houston, really kind of strong-arm people, got fired, arrogance. Matt Patricia had to be told how to dress. Remember, he showed up hat backwards, got ripped after week 1. He thought he could just get away with it. Joe Judge, got a certain system and a culture. In all of them, there's an argument to be made is they brought in this sort of, we're smarter than everybody else. And I do think you're seeing it post-Brady. I think Brady's humility, I mean, for a superstar married to a supermodel worth $1 billion, Tom's pretty humble, can laugh at himself, pretty funny, good self-awareness most of the time. And this organization now, in an offensive pivoting league, they just don't have any playmakers. I saw a stat this morning, the guys looked up in the last 2 years. They're like bottom of the league in everything with the receivers. Receiving receptions, receiving yards, receiving TDs. They brought in Devontae Parker. That's not going to solve it. He doesn't separate from anybody. Talented, but not really a separate guy. So, and here's why it's arrogant. Because you have Mac Jones in his second year. Mac Jones isn't Lamar Jackson. He's not Justin Herbert. Like, there are limitations to what he can do. So what he needs is support and help. Like, Burrow's getting in Cincinnati. They just keep getting him weapons and offensive linemen. Like Justin Herbert is getting in L.A. with the Chargers. First thing they did, get a left tackle. They went and spent a fortune on a center, draft another running back. They're just constantly upgrading. New England, we're going to use a defensive coordinator as an offensive coach. Joe Judge, a special teams guy. Yeah, he'll call plays too. It's by committee, and the stories are out that Mac Jones is not comfortable. Well, why would he be? I mean, if you were in year 2 of a really hard job and you got less support and it was boss by committee, to me that just smacks of arrogance. Is that we're just smarter than everybody else. And if you start looking at all these misses, Eric Mangini got fired, but it wasn't an arrogance thing. I mean, he went to the Jets and Browns. Those are enigmatic franchises. But I think this is on full display. I think the ego and the harshness of Belichick wore out Brady. And we know that he was unhappy 2 years before he left because the stories are out now. He was talking to somebody in division, the Miami Dolphins, about going to play for them. He wanted to come back and burn New England. Like he was already talking to Miami, their rival in division. The difference is Mac Jones doesn't have that resume. He doesn't have that leverage. He doesn't really have a strong voice in the room. And this is what he's left with. And this is why Brady left. Is that everybody's too smart. They know their own stuff. We do it our way. Well, your way's not working. You're a 500 team that cannot force Josh Allen the last 2 years to punt. Can't. Forget beating him. You can't force him to punt in any game played against Josh in decent weather the last 2 years. So Joy often laughs at the fact that I love practice video. Absolutely love practice video. Now, not all video is credible. I mean, UFO is a great example. Like, what's the angle? What's the clarity? You can't get too in love with video, right? But there are sometimes you see video and it's the truth. Like that's fast, that's urgent, that's passionate. You can see crowds, you can see people. So if based on video that we have seen clips of practice so far, Tua is going to be the MVP of the league and Daniel Jones is going to complete 23% of his throws. So how much of it is true? When you watch these videos and, is video telling you the truth with Tua, and is it similarly telling you the truth with Daniel Jones? Because the clips coming out of Miami are unbelievable. It's just one 55-yard perfect strike after another for Tua. He just looks absolutely great in all the video that's been on the internet and been on blogs, and it's handheld stuff, and it comes from fans. It's perfect. Well, here's my thing. If you look at Tua's history, he was accurate in high school, accurate at Alabama, and he completed like 68% of his throws last year. He's always been accurate. Then I see these video clips where he now has an elite left tackle and elite receivers. He remains accurate with better help. I buy that video. I think he's going to have a very good year. And Daniel Jones, similarly, has never been that accurate. His college, even with David Cutcliffe, here's a throw. He just wasn't that accurate. In the NFL 3 years, he hasn't been accurate. So when I look at Daniel Jones clips of video, I say, well, this is what he is. And when I look at Tua's clips, I say, well, that is what he is. So I do think Tua's going to have a big year, and Daniel Jones, by about week 8, they'll be done with him, and Tyrod Taylor will be playing. So in this instance, I have data combined with video, and I think these are real video clips of note, and they are telling you stuff. Because I think if you look at Tua's history, I went back and looked at high school stuff and college stuff and NFL stuff. Tua's never had an accuracy issue. He's Drew Brees. That's who he was comped with. His issue is, I got a bad left tackle, and nobody's ever open. Off-season acquisitions, both problems solved. Armstead, Waddle, Cedric Wilson, Tyreek Hill. So I think Miami's going to have a very good year. Not everybody thinks that. I do. And I think the Giants are going to be an absolute wreck. The other thing I think about when I see practice video for quarterbacks is that the one thing a quarterback doesn't have to worry about in practice is getting hit. That is a significant psychological edge in practice. You never have to worry about getting hit. Translation, you should be more accurate. You should be more confident. I mean, if you played football in the NFL as a running back and knew you're not going to get hit today, you'd run harder. You'd run with more conviction. So, yeah, Tua big year, Daniel Jones nightmare, and I think it's both true.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.